Alright, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD. Went to the here back in Plays and Stores, and I was just gonna let this, really, seemingly just normal story recap video go by the wayside. God of War Ragnarok is coming up, so they did a little bit of a story recap with the original God of War 2018 with Felicia narrating and everything, and she was just reading a little synopsis of the main game. I was gonna let it go by the wayside and not really think about it, but then I watched it a little bit more closely, ladies and gentlemen, all right? And I found some things that could be not true, right? But we're gonna do a little breakdown here, and I'm gonna make a point that I may have just found that Felicia could be playing Faye in God of War Ragnarok. Yes, Faye, not Freya, Faye, mother to Atreus, wife to Kratos, and the frost giant of Jotunheim herself. Okay, now I'm gonna try and prove this in this video. Once again, this is all a theory, okay? This is all speculation. This is not going to be confirmed, but I think there's enough here to maybe make a point that Felicia could have just been more than just being hired by Sony to do this recap for God of War 2018. I think that, if you take into account this elaborate setup with the way this is shot and everything that I'm about to point out here in this trailer, I think this could be more than what meets the eye. But down below, check out the full trailer below. It's a really cool recap, honestly, of God of War 2018, and a really good one at that. Like, they really do a good job at synopsizing the entire God of War 2018 game, and they even have a fun bit with Mimir and everything, which I hope that Mimir gets his own recap as well someday. But before we get to all that, down below, while you are looking at the links for the trailer, you can check out Faye's God of War wiki page that we'll be referencing a lot in this video, as well as some other things that we'll get to, and of course link in the description to Discord, Twitter, all that great stuff down below. Alright, first up on this breakdown, let's get straight to the business here. We see a knife in the very beginning of the trailer. Now, yeah, this could be just any knife, right? But if you look at the actual hilt of the knife, you see the white type of stitching on it and everything, the rope, if you will. And if you look at the scene in God of War 2018 when they're doing the cremation of Faye, you see her knife right there. This is the same knife that Atreus will eventually grab and then burn his hand with, and then Kratos will give to him in order to protect himself and everything. I think that is Faye's knife. That's a dead giveaway right there. That made me want to make this video right here. That may be Faye's knife that eventually Atreus loses, and then Kratos gives him his own knife that he made for him specifically. So down below, what do you think, guys, in the comment section? Do you think that's Faye's knife? Do you think that I'm just looking into it too hard? Leave me those thoughts down below in that comment section. Next up here, I want to, really just play this little clip here from the recap trailer that Felicia says.
Odin's filthy spies. That old man sees more now than he did when he had both eyes. Ah, one of my favorites.
So yeah, I know that, okay, it's not crazy to think that like anyone would hate Odin, right? Odin is not the most kind of gods, if you will, amongst the Aesir gods, right? And they're all kind of known to be ruthless in their own specific ways, but Odin is definitely known to be a very ruthless god, right? But for Felicia to say, quote, Odin's filthy spies, that old man sees more than when he had both eyes, right? Like, to me, that gives off a very negative type of connotation, a very negative type of slant to it, right? And if you play God of War 2018 and look towards the God of War wiki as well, link below in the description, you can see that Faye hated Odin as well, you know what I'm saying? And this excerpt is from the God of War wiki itself on Faye's specific page. According to Mimir, she was renowned as a great giant heroine, known as Laufey the Just for her deeds in helping the weak and helpless and opposing the cruel Aesir and their king Odin. Laufey was also known to be a fearsome and respectful warrior in her own right, even drawing the attention of Thor, one of the most powerful Aesir. Even Kratos, her future husband, respected her fighting skills, saying she fought beautifully. At some point, she cooperated with Tyr in hiding the realm tower to Jotunheim, cutting her off from her home in an effort to preserve her kin from Thor's genocide. So not only through that quote do we see that, there was a very much of a force with Faye, that she did not like the Aesir gods and specifically did not like Odin as well. And on top of that, there is a connection with Faye herself and Tyr that they cooperated on helping, her and her family hide from Thor as they were trying to hunt down all the giants and everything. There's just too much evidence here to support that Felicia Day could be playing Faye, with her knife being in the first shot, having this quote of her, hating Odin in some particular way. And on top of that, we have this other quote that is saying that, Faye back in the day cooperated with Tyr, and Tyr being in God of War, guys. Like, you see where this thread is going here. Like, I really do think that there is enough evidence here to support that Felicia Day could have also been acting as if it was Faye recounting these stories, which we will definitely get to here in a little bit. Next up here, I want to take some time to cover the books that we see in the background. There's a very clear and deliberate shot of Felicia Day going through the books on the bookshelf, trying to pick out the God of War book that goes over the 2018 story, but there's a lot of different other books here that we can go off of. So the first one here is called the Prose Edda, which this Prose Edda is an Old Norse textbook written in Iceland during the early 13th century. It is considered the fullest and most detailed source for modern knowledge of Norse mythology, the body of myths and North Germanic peoples, and draws from a wide variety of sources, including versions of poems that survive into today in a collection known as the Poetic Edda. It's broken up into 4 sections, focusing on the Norse gods for one section, a section that dives deep into the aspects of Norse mythology via question and answer format for a second section. The third section lists of different poems from Norse mythology itself, and the final section that discusses the composition of traditional skaldic poetry as well. So a very important book for overall Norse mythology. A lot of these are just going to be kind of callbacks to different things that you'll see as well that don't directly tie to Ragnarok, but are just cool to poke out and just cool to point out as well. Next up, there's a book called The Ghosts of Sparta, which I think is pretty cool, because if that is its own book, maybe in the future we'll get a bit of a recounting of Felicia Day reading Kratos' past, right? Which I think that will be a huge thing in this game. Seeing Zeus and everything in God of War 2018, I think that's definitely going to tie in as well. Seeing Athena as well, I think that's all going to tie into Ragnarok in some way, and having a recap of Ghosts of Sparta definitely does make sense if they want to tell that story as well and get people caught up to speed. The next one here, I could not find anything. I think it says T Dunn Forest Valley, DUNN. Guys, down below, if you know anything about this, let me know. I tried to scour the internet, I could not find anything on this thing that connected to anything God of War related or Norse mythology related. Let me know those thoughts down below in the comment section. But the next one definitely does. It's called The Boat Captain's Key to Buried Treasure. This maybe and most likely refers to the in-game treasure map that you find that's found at Stone Falls that is called the Boat Captain's Key, right? And what this does is it leads you to buried treasure itself that is found in the Isle of Death on the God of War 2018 map. Could this be teasing the fate of Kratos that we saw on the walls of Jotunheim? It could be possible, guys. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. But that's the only thing I have here where, yes, the Boat Captain's Key to Buried Treasure, the actual, in-game 2018 treasure map led to a place called the Isle of Death. Next up, we have another book here called A Call from the Wilds, which is definitely interesting because this was actually, believe it or not, a God of War prequel for 2018 on the lead up to God of War 2018. That was an old school type of text-based adventure game that told the tale of Atreus before the game when he starts hearing voices and he goes into the Norse wilds beyond his home for the first time. Oddly enough, this did take place on Facebook Messenger. Yes, y'all heard that right. Yes, this game was on Facebook Messenger, and it was pretty neat, honestly. I did play it myself and did a playthrough on the channel. You can go check it out. I'll put a card up here in the top of the screen. It's very old. It's probably a bad video, but I did play through it on the channel here a few years ago, and I think that's very interesting as well, how there's also another callback to a prequel time before this point for Atreus as well. So once again, like the Ghost of Sparta, maybe we'll get another kind of recap book that recaps Atreus specifically. Next up, we have probably a small little Easter egg here called the Holder Brothers Book of Welding. This of course refers to our two favorite brothers, Brock and Sindri, as they're both welders in the game. It's also good to note that they not only upgrade the Leviathan axe for Kratos, they initially made the axe for Faye herself. They also made Thor's hammer as well, Mjolnir. So what they're calling the Book of Welding, maybe just a little tease at poking at that, or maybe we will get another prequel book style type of recap going over Brock and Sindri. That could be possible. You know, who knows? That could definitely be possible, and that would definitely make sense because they're integral to making the weapons of this universe, right? Of course, the Leviathan axe and Thor's hammer and Mjolnir, which could be integral because, of course, he used this weapon to kill all of the frost giants in Jotunheim. Next up, we have a book called The Lost Pages of Norse Myth, which this refers to a promotional campaign for God of War that was an audio podcast composed of a series of small stories that expand the Nordic universe, along with the backstories of Kratos, Atreus, and other characters as well. I actually never knew this existed before this video and before this breakdown, but I'll leave a playlist below if you want to check out the full, 9-episode arc of The Lost Pages of Norse Myth. But once again, this does fit in line with the whole recap nature of this collection of books, but this could be pointing to nothing because this already kind of exists. But for granted, so did A Call from the Wilds, that already existed too. So maybe, this is going to lead to something, or maybe it doesn't. But yeah, this was a promotional podcast series for backstories before God of War 2018. And lastly, here we have Tales of Norse Myth and Legends. I couldn't find anything specific about God of War with this specific book, so maybe this could be just something like a little bit of a generic type of just placeholder book that would make sense to be on this shelf. But if there's something that I'm missing, let me know down below in that comment section. So where I want to leave off here for the last thing I found in this breakdown is that there's a lot of Ragnarok details that we get from Felicia Day and Mimir about what we're heading into next. So Felicia says something like, quote, setting in motion the greatest war the Nine Realms have ever seen. This comes after her describing what the Book of God of War is going to entail, this great long journey of about a father and a son. And what this story does is it, quote, sets in motion the greatest war the Nine Realms have ever seen. So just we can get a look at the scale of what we're talking about here with Ragnarok in the next game is going to be very big. It's going to be a very, very big type of war that will span all Nine Realms, and we'll see how it all plays out, right? And to even double down on that premise of this being a huge major war, Mimir also says that, towards the end of the recap video, Mimir's like, oh, you're gonna stop here? Quote, this is the most dramatic part. So Mimir uses the word dramatic to describe what's coming next in Ragnarok, right? And we'll see what that fully entails. I know that's just a single word, but we gotta really break down everything that they're saying here in this trailer. They used and they made Mimir say the word dramatic for gotta be some reason, right? Like, it's gotta be some big things here. We're talking about a big war across the Nine Realms. It's gonna be dramatic, which is an interesting way to describe this whole thing. Dramatic. That's a very definitive choice there. So we'll see what that all entails. I think some people are going to die. I think, Kratos' days are numbered, perhaps. But speaking of Kratos and Atreus, Felicia also says towards the end of the recap that, after the events of God of War 2018, when they spread Faye's ashes across Jotunheim and their mission is complete, Kratos and Atreus trained day by day, as Atreus grew restless and Kratos grew weary of Fimbulwinter sending in as Ragnarok looms. So this confirms that Kratos indeed has been training Atreus during the in-between times between God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, right? There could have been a throwaway line at the end of God of War 2018 that I'm forgetting, but I didn't know or recall Kratos telling Atreus that they'll be training for, more stuff and everything and for combat. So this could be leaning to Atreus being playable in God of War Ragnarok. Just throwing that out there. Atreus will have training and be more combat, fluent in this next game. So overall, what's the takeaway here, right? Felicia never refers to herself as Faye or says the word I. She uses terms like, Atreus' mother, Kratos' wife. I think she says, if she doesn't say that, she definitely says like the mother, right? She refers to Faye as the mother, right? And, I guess, why make it on the nose like that if it were to be true, right? And this, to be fair, could all be false, right? But Felicia Day says that she knows and loves this story, right? This character that Felicia Day is playing in this recap trailer, okay? I want everyone to keep in mind here that Faye guided Kratos and Atreus through the events of God of War 2018 and even foresaw it. She foresaw this story happening. She set this whole story in motion, and she knows this story just as much as Felicia Day does. You know what I'm saying? experience. So I really think that there is a connection between Felicia Day and Faye here that we will have to see with God of War Ragnarok. And the last clue I have, this may be a bit far-fetched, I will say that, but the ways that, Faye was able to lead Kratos and Atreus through their journey in God of War 2018 was through this very iconic gold handprint that she had, right? And hey, I know, Felicia Day is, inside, indoors, taking refuge from the winter storm outside of Fimbulwinter. She got a fire going, so I get that there's a fire in the room, but Felicia Day is just, deliberately just kind of covered in this yellow type of hue, yellow-orange type of fiery hue and everything, and I just think a lot about that yellow handprint during this trailer. But down below, okay, that one might be far-fetched, I admit, but down below, what do you guys see in the comment section? That was my breakdown of this trailer. I do think, bottom line, that, hey, Felicia Day will be playing Faye in God of War Ragnarok. What do you guys see in the comments below? What are your thoughts? And also, while you are down there, make sure to check out the description. You can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and of course our Anchor link that you can listen to Road to Part 1, where we have episode 3 in the can. We have plenty more to go, and as we lead up to release of Last of Us Part 1 every single Sunday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, then go check out Road to Part 1 on YouTube and podcast services as well. A lot of you have enjoyed it, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Stories to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.